When did you start playing Diablo 2?
So I sat down and played and just immediately hooked. I got to work with the devs design of the Warlock. And
From zero to finding Azad?
yeah, I believe. I think we're 11 years in, something like that.
All right, MrLlamaSC, thank you very much for coming on my show.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
You are most welcome. Okay, so first of all, who are you and what do you do?
My name is MrLlamaSC. I am a Diablo 2 streamer, YouTuber, all of the pieces there. And that's it. That's my job. I make Diablo 2 content for the most part. A little bit of, I've dabbled. I played a little Age of Empires 2 recently, played some Brood War, some of the other stuff. But if you look at, a majority of everything I have, it is just Diablo 2 content.
I have to ask, does the SC, is it because that was your name first time you played StarCraft?
The SC was, I thought I was going to become a StarCraft streamer. I actually tried to back in college. And so I made the name Mr. Llama. And like everybody back then was putting SC in their name. Like all the StarCraft people were doing it. So I was like, oh, I'll just do that as well. And kind of failed at it. But the name, I still had the name. So I just kept the name when I eventually shifted to D2 and that one took off.
So it wasn't because you were playing StarCraft, it's because you intended to play StarCraft.
Because I intended to, I was playing, but I intended to be a StarCraft content creator.
You know, the first time I saw you, I saw the SC and I went, I bet that's StarCraft. It has to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so before we get into the rest of the interview, where can people engage with your content? What's the best way to get into your stuff?
Sure. Twitch and YouTube are pretty much the like main sources there. And then I have my Discord server. Other than that, my wife posts little things on Instagram and TikTok. Just like some shorts that she make, YouTube shorts, she posts them kind of there too. She handles all the like short form content stuff. But it's very minimal there. That's like the thing. But hey, for her sake, go follow those so she feels like it's doing stuff.
Did she make the llama song?
No, the llama song, oh God, that came 10 years ago, whatever, that song, somebody made that song and then somebody made that version, like a different version of it. And I don't know, I just found it on the internet and I was like, I love this. This is great.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into it. When did you start playing Diablo 2? Because this game, help me jog my memory. The original
2000.
Diablo 2 came out in 2000, right? And then
Yep.
Lord of Destruction was 2002?
One.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you started playing right away?
So I started playing around 2001. My parents were like, you're not going to play a mature game, and whatever stuff. So I go to my friend's house and he was like, him and his brothers and dad they had a gaming room and they would all just sit and play it and they loved it. And so one time I went over there and I was like, yo, this looks awesome. I want to go play this. So I sat down and played and, just immediately hooked. And so I just played over there for a while. And eventually we convinced my parents that like, no, you're just like slaying the demons. It's not a demonic game. You're the good guy. And they were like, all right, and, yeah, so probably around 2001, first year, not a lot. I don't think at all. And just kind of forever since then, I took like small breaks on and off in the first, few years. I'd play for like a year or two. Then I'd go play like a year of StarCraft. Then I'd come back and play a year or two of Diablo 2. Then I'd go play like a year of Dota. I just kind of like bounced back and forth like that. But I always came back to Diablo 2. I just couldn't get away.
I feel like you just described my high school and my college experience
Yeah.
with those games. I think swap out StarCraft for Heroes of Might and Magic, and that was probably
There you go.
it.
Yeah.
So when did you start streaming?
2015, I believe. I think we're 11 years in, something like that. I think it's like January of 2015. That sounds right to me. So it's been a while. It's pretty crazy that it's been that long. And it's been a whole journey through it, which is really fun. And, maybe we'll get to talk more about that here soon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm curious to know, like, what was it that actually got you started wanting to stream? Because it's a pretty big leap from wanting to play your game off camera to suddenly wanting to play your game, like, on camera. So what was the catalyst?
So my friend, again, I wanted to originally be a StarCraft streamer. And this came because my friend, Axel Toss, was wanting to. He came up with the idea or saw it, whatever, and was like, I want to be a StarCraft like commentator. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. He was like, yeah, we should do it. And then I like never really, it's like you're always like, yeah, we should do it, right, with all sorts of ideas, and then you just like don't follow through. But he followed through. He like got the mic and did the practice and did all the stuff. And he actually went on to go and like kind of make it there. He went and became an MLG commentator and like went forward with it and did a lot of broadcasting and all sorts of stuff across. I think he's shifted some other games as well for a bit. And I just thought, man, I wish I would have like actually commit to trying it. And so when I got into college, I was like, I'm going to commit to trying it. I'm going to like make all the names, get the YouTube, the Twitch, the blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get the microphone. I'm going to start recording and I'm going to start posting. And so I did that for a good like year and a half to 2 years, I'd say, of just like StarCraft 2 commentating and, streaming and all those things. And at the end of it all, like it wasn't successful. I had like maybe 1,200 YouTube subscribers, which I guess fine. It wasn't like nothing happened, but like, it wasn't the like growth I was kind of hoping, as much time as I was committing and stuff. And maybe I had like 10 viewers on Twitch and stuff. So after that, I was like, all right, I gave it a shot. It didn't work out. It wasn't for me. And I hung it up and just kind of went about my life for like a few years. And then in 2015, so I guess like 2.5 years later, probably 3 years later, I was watching people on Twitch and I was like, hey, this seems kind of cool. Like, I wonder what game I'd like to, I kind of want to try this. Like, it didn't work for StarCraft, but maybe there's a different game that it'll work for. And so I saw somebody playing Diablo 2 and I was like, yeah, that looks sick. Like, I love Diablo 2. And I thought to myself, there's more that could be here. Like there, it was like the Diablo 2 category on Twitch had like 30 viewers across like 6 channels, and all the channels were just like bad quality, no webcams, distorted audio. It was like not good quality. And so my thought was, somebody like Diablo 2 is too good of a game to only have 30 viewers. And I think the reason people aren't here watching is because there's not like a consistent streamer that's putting out like good content, has, quality, like camera, quality setup, all the stuff. So I thought I'll just try and fill that void. And so I went and tried it. And, on my first stream, I had like 15 viewers already from it. And I was like, that's more than I had the entirety of like my StarCraft 2 streaming career. So I'm going to give this a shot.
Yeah, I just to interject for a second. So for the folks watching, if you're not familiar with what it's like to start a Twitch channel, to start with essentially having 15 viewers is actually, it's the difference between like a pea and an orange. Like it's, neither is huge, but the difference between it is just huge, because getting those first, I would say 5 congruent viewers is so difficult.
It's so hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Most people don't. I would just say that the majority of streamers don't crack 15 concurrent viewers, as crazy as that might sound. So that must have been very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, the average is probably like 1 viewer, but even, yeah, like you're saying, if you're in like 15 plus viewers, you're probably already in the top 10% of viewership or something on Twitch.
He's not joking. He's not joking.
And like you say, it's hard because a lot of times it's difficult to crack, to get the first people in. And then to build like some loyal people that are coming back and wanting to engage more in all of this. So it really is difficult in that regard, to just get that initial piece started and going.
So this is a great segue to, how did this actually go for you in terms of your rise? Because you obviously have a very successful Twitch channel and a successful YouTube channel, and you've built yourself a community. That takes time, it takes work, but it also takes effort and talent. So how did your actual rise go? Was it sort of a steep rise? Was it a long gradual one? And also, like, about that, was there any specific content that you can point to, or content loops that like really you went, okay, there's traction here. People want to see this and they want to come back to see this.
So I didn't have any. A lot of people think that like, I mean, you get a lot of people thinking a lot of different things of how success comes, and one of the things is success can come in a lot of ways for a lot of different people. Many people are like, streaming is just like a pure luck thing. You just had to be in the right place at the right time. And there's definitely those cases. You will see somebody who just like happens to be on a server that a big streamer comes on. The people think that he's funny, and then boom, all of a sudden, he makes a Twitch and everybody's over there. And you're like, wow, that was just like but like he still had to be like funny and he still had to, whatever. But like, you have like that sort of thing. Mine was really just a slow grind. And again, I always like to bring up that like I failed at this first in StarCraft for a year and a half. Now, more of StarCraft 2 was commentating games and like the YouTube portion and being kind of, I wasn't on the screen really. I was just like vocal, commentary over. And what I found and what I still kind of find to this day is I think I'm a lot better in the interaction. That's what I think really shifted. When I went and I did that first Diablo 2 stream, it was like, oh, wow. When I can engage with people and build a relationship, even though I can't see them, whatever, but they can text, they can type something, I can respond to it, I can make a joke, they can, right? Like when I can have that relation, that increases my value so much, I think, as a streamer. And I think that's where I'm like so much better than I am as just like a play-by-play commentator or something for the game. I felt like, yeah, okay, that's what stands me out, and that's how I can have that rise. So yeah, for me overall, the rise was very gradual. It was just like, steady. Like I started out nicely. I had some viewers there, which is good. I was able to like top the D2 category very quickly. Again, there weren't a lot of like people there, but a lot of people like Diablo 2. And so people come and check out the Diablo 2 category every now and then because they think about it like I did. And then, they see a stream that looks decent quality. They hop in and it just goes from there. So my goal was always to build one loyal follower a week. That was it. I wanted one person every single week that would come back to my channel. And that's something that a lot of people initially, they like shoot too high, right? They're like, that's nothing, right? That's like 52 people over the year. And it's like, that's great. Like if you can have 52 people that come back at the end of a year, like that's like the top 1% of Twitch. If you have 50 viewers, right? Like you're cooking at that point. And then you just grow it from there. So that was always kind of my goal. And so it just built, I just remember like, now I've got 20 viewers. Now I've got 25. Now I've got 30. And sometimes you'd have ups and sometimes you'd have downs. And the best thing to do is just like hide the view count. I don't look at the view count, and you just treat everybody there like they're the person that you want to be there with. Because I think that's the one thing you see a lot of streamers that like look off to the side, and if their view count is lower than normal, they're just like get mopey, or they shut down a little, or they start talking about it. Oh man, where is everybody? And it's like nobody who's hanging out with you wants to hear you moaning about where the other people are. Like, oh, am I not good enough? Like, I'm here spending time with you. So even if it's 5 people, think about 5 people like hanging out with you in your room. If you're just sitting there like, man, I wish other people were here, like it'd be horrible.
Yeah, just to jump in for a second, like you're absolutely right about that, and I'm guilty myself of having looked over to the side, seen, if another big channel in my category goes live and people migrate over there, you can watch your numbers fall, and it can be distressing, and yeah, if you let that happen, it absolutely will make people feel like, oh well, I guess I understand what they're here for, or something like that.
Right.
But you touched on another thing, which is that people want to feel like you're there with them, and if you check out in some way like that, it can make them sort of feel like they're less valuable, I suppose. Do you think that would be a fair way to put it?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way. I mean, again, we're like, everybody watching is a human, except for all the bots, whatever. But besides all them, like everybody there is a real live human, and they're not just a number. And when you see them as a number, they're going to feel like they're just a number and they're not going to care. But when you see them as a real person who's sitting at their computer or on their TV or whatever, and they're actually engaging and like interacting, or even if they're not, they're just lurking, but they're watching, they're like there with you, and you have to talk and just be like they're a real person, right? Like engage like they're a real person, because they are. And I feel like that makes such a big difference.
Absolutely. Resurrected. This was
Yeah.
this was huge because Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction were, again, they were early 2000s, and then lo and behold, Blizzard comes by and says, "Hey, we're gonna completely reskin. We're gonna update this game, and we're gonna refurbish it."
Yep.
What did that do for you in terms of changing your daily content? Did it bring more attention to your stream? Like, how did this
Yeah.
change what you do?
Yeah. So it definitely was a big boost. It was actually really funny. I quit my job the day before they told me. So I had been like, spending years where I was doing both. I was streaming and working. And then I spent, I think, like 2 to 3 years part-time working at my job 3 days a week, and then streaming still. And then it just kind of came to a point where I was like, I think I can go full time, and I'm going to try for it. So I just like put in my notice and was like, hey, like I'm going to like, put in my 2 weeks. Right. And try and do this full time. And the next day, I got a message from the CM, and he was like, hey, I want you to like watch this and record yourself watching it. And it was the resurrected like video. And then I got to like be a part of the announcing of it kind of at BlizzCon, which was awesome. But I was like, man, if that's not like perfect timing. So it was great. But it was really great. Like it was like a big boost to the stream. I mean, for a bit there, I had like thousands and thousands of people watching. I was sitting there like 4,000, 5,000 viewers a stream. And I was also streaming like 12 hours a day, every single day, for like a couple months to take advantage of it all. And honestly, after like a month and a half, whatever, of kind of doing that, I was like, man, like this does really well, but this is like no way to live your life. Like there's a lot of the largest streamers on Twitch, they're like that. They just stream 12 hours a day, every single day. They're just nonstop streaming, always on, and they're making tons of money. But I mean, their lives have to be just rough from that. Like, I mean, I hope that they enjoy it, but God, I was like, I got to take breaks. I want to go like do activities. I want to go play sports. Like, I need to do something else, man. I can't just sit here and do this. So it was funny, but it was a good lesson there. I learned that I need more of a balance, and I can't just have that,
It's nice to learn that lesson because you succeeded.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
never
it's nice.
it never hurts for that
It
to
does
be
not.
the reason. Yeah.
It does not.
So you touched on two important points there, which I want to make sure we come back to. One is you experienced some overwhelming success due to the release of Resurrected and being a part of the announcement, which we all know how that works when an outside force puts its thumb on the scale on your behalf in some way, and you just go, okay, I'm going to make hay while the sun is shining, which you clearly did. But then realizing, okay, but this is not a sustainable lifestyle for me. And I do want to get back into what that does to a lifestyle at some point, because that's really interesting. Sure. The other was specifically, though, before we get too far into that, I want to just get a little bit of just a few specific Diablo-related things with regarding to you, which is I want to know, what was your first character? Do you remember your first character that you ever made?
Yeah. I made a summon necro for single player, and I never made it past Act 1. Just kind of sucked around for a while in Act 1, made it to like level 20 something, and never got past that. And I made a a frenzy barbarian online who used 2 gemmed warhammers. They were 4 open socket warhammers that had perfect emeralds in them. And it was actually solid through normal. And then I got to Nightmare, and the character kind of sucked. And I got to about level 45 before someone scammed me and took all my gear. And, again, none of that gear was worth anything whatsoever. But that was, that was my first two characters
That's
online offline.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That sounds about like my experience. I think my first one was a guided arrow Boazon, but it was one of those
Nice.
like it's one of those ones where I had no idea about building skill trees, so I
Yeah.
just sort of put
Yeah.
points in wherever, and then
Everything.
by
Yeah.
I want to say by Act 3, nothing dies, so you just get frustrated and stop.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know what happened to that character. Lost to the ether.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I
so
had like 1 point in every curse as the necro
yeah,
and stuff, yeah, it's just like garbage.
yeah. I don't know if you started in 2001, you might not have remembered in the original Diablo 2. I'm pretty sure there was no such thing as synergies either. So stuff
Oh,
was
they didn't
just
exist.
weak.
Yeah, they didn't exist until 110. So I
Okay.
played before synergies existed because 108 is when LOD released, right? And then 110, I can look up like patch 110 Diablo 2
Those were big
release.
patches. Like those patches,
That
they
was a
changed the
giant
way the
patch.
game worked. It
That
was
was
really incredible.
2003. So that
Okay.
was a big, there was some good time before that one hit.
Well, last question here before we move back to the career, which is going to be, do you remember what part, like maybe let's just say act or maybe a dungeon or a specific area, that when you were sort of doing your first playthroughs, that just made you go, wow, like this is so cool. I could play this as a career for the next 20 years.
I mean, I always wanted to be a StarCraft professional player when I was a kid. I never thought pro Diablo would be ever even a thing because that back in 2000 there wasn't streaming, so there was no like you could be a professional Diablo player. Like you could be a professional StarCraft player because in Korea they had that. You could be a professional like Quake player or something, but there wasn't like Diablo. So none of that, but I mean, memorable zones, like God, just the whole game. But I really feel like the Chaos Sanctuary is so memorable. It's just like beautiful. And then the pentagram in the middle where Diablo spawns after the seal bosses, and just like a really cool setup. So I definitely remember being just like wowed by Act 4 when I eventually, got there.
Sure. Okay, so we're going to move back to the career now. So I think you already touched on this, so we'll go through it quick, which is about when did you realize you could do this for a living? You mentioned it was just very fortuitous that it happened essentially right before the release or before the reveal, I guess, of Resurrected. But at what point did you sort of go, okay, like what made you decide, I think I'm going to go from part-time work to
Yeah.
full-time streaming? Like, could you talk to me a little bit about what your day was like so that you went like, okay, I think that I can do this and I think I want to do this.
So 2013, I graduated college and I went and started working. Um, and I, and then 2015, I started streaming. So a couple years later. Um, and so I was just like burning both ends at that point, right? Cause I was like, I want to stream. My thought to myself was my rent at the time was $500 a month. I lived in a tiny town. It was $500 a month, all utilities included. I had a roommate, and it was just like, it's just like a little tiny town, but it was fun, whatever. But I thought, wow, if I can make $500 a month and like pay my rent, that would be the coolest thing ever. I was very much into saving. I tried to save a lot of my money, and so I thought that would be a great way to just like get a few extra bucks, pay my rent by playing video games. What a life! So I started with that goal, and that was kind of the first goal that I had. And after the first year of streaming, I think I made $900, which like was fine. Again, I didn't expect to make a lot in the first year. That's just the first year of streaming. And then the second year, I think I got to that goal. I made like a little over 6,000 or something for like the second year of streaming. And it was just like small incremental growth like that over the time of it. And so I started like, okay, I'm making a little bit more. Like I'm not anywhere near my salary, but like I'm making a little bit. And then once it got to like an okay amount, I was like, all right, I could go to part-time work. And that was a hard decision too. But I was so tired because I would wake up and I would work from 9 to 5 or, whatever, 8 to 5. And then I'd come home, I'd go work out, and then I would stream from like 7 to midnight or 7 to 11:30, whatever. And then I'd go to bed and rinse and repeat. And I'd try and stream like 5 days a week on top of working 5 days a week. And man, I was exhausted. And there were many times where I would come home from work and I would try to get ready to go stream, and then I would just fall asleep at like 5:30. I would just like lay on my bed and fall asleep and wake up at like 10 o'clock and be like, oh God, So I was just like exhausted, but I was like, I want to do this. So after a few years, when it kind of got like okay enough, I thought I can try and go part-time, still keep some of that safety net. I don't have enough money like just from streaming where I could support myself, but I could part-time it and be okay and a good mix. So I talked to my company and they're like, yeah, sure, we'll let you do that. So I did that. And after like 3 more years, I'd been able to build enough with my stream that I felt comfortable. I'd also been saving some money. So I was like, I've got some money back here in the event that this doesn't work. I have some time to like go back into the workforce, right? Or take some time to, I'm not going to like, oh crap, now I'm like screwed. And so it just kind of came to that point. I just felt like I'm at the point, I think I can do enough with this. I think I'm sturdy enough with it that like I can have an income that, won't be as good as having my regular income plus streaming, but like could be something. And that's all I was really looking for, was just like good enough where I could do this and have a nice time. So yeah, I think it was like 20, whatever, right? 2020, 2019, 2020 when I quit, and then the resurrection stuff happened, and then it was like really nice, and we had a really, really good few months after that. And yeah, and then like we said, then I kind of figured out more of what the life I wanted to live looked like in this world. Because one of the hard things about working for yourself is you can always work more and make more. Like there's always more you can do. I could work an extra 2 hours every day and make more money, but then I'm just gonna be more miserable. Like, and then eventually it comes back, right? Eventually you got to pay that toll, and you're burned out from it or whatever. So there's definitely something to be said about that, like balancing act.
How did friends and family perceive all of this? Were they supportive? Were they concerned? Did they feel you had got it right, that you were getting it wrong? How did that
Uh,
go?
my mom was supportive. My dad would say he was supportive, but wasn't really. He didn't love it. He never loved any of the bit of it. Even when I was going to part time, he was like, "Don't like do that. They're gonna think that you don't want to work there, and then they're just gonna like fire you, right? Like, like don't do it." And I was like, "Well, then I'll just stream if they fire me." And he's like, "Why would you give up like a sturdy job and like health insurance and all this stuff to go be stupid?" So he's supportive now because it has worked out. But like then he was like, don't. There's no reason. You could just do both of them at the same time, right? Like this is your job and this is your playtime. My girlfriend at the time back then was not supportive, and I think it was one of the reasons that that relationship didn't work out eventually, because she had family, an aunt who had like a load of an uncle, or her uncle was like a load and just like mooched off the aunt.
Ooh.
And so when I was like, hey, I just want to like play video games, but like make my job, she was like, yeah, so I'm just gonna like support us and you're just gonna like play video games all day. So she wasn't much of a believer either. Um, just which is fine. I mean, it's not for everybody, for sure. Like
That is
that's
interesting. I mean,
yeah.
okay, so I won't get too personal because it's nobody's business. But like,
That's fine. I don't care.
I suppose if you are working, for
Yeah.
example, 9 to 5, and then you're streaming in the evening, it doesn't leave a lot of time for socializing, and it definitely doesn't leave a lot of socializing for like a romantic partner, because it's gonna seem as though what you're doing for work, because you're trying to build something, it it's a recreational activity most of the time. So,
Yeah.
like, can I ask? Can I ask, like, how did you frame it? I suppose.
I mean, to who and when. I've framed that in so many different ways to so many different people because it's such a hard thing to frame and so many people don't understand it. So many women when I was trying to date after that, right? Like, and eventually when you're a full time, there was so many times where I'd be like talking to someone and be having a great conversation, and then they'd be like, "What do you do for work?" And no matter how I put it, they would just like stop talking to me. And it's kind of funny. I showed my current wife, some of those like messages I had with, because she was like, "There's no way people are like that," and I showed her, and it would literally just be like paragraphs, like interests, back and forth conversation. They'd be like, "What do you do for work?" I'd be like, "Oh, like I'm a content creator. I make all this content for Twitch and YouTube for, an older game, blah, 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 blah." And they'd just be like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And that'd be it. Or they like wouldn't respond. And, you frame it again as like content creator, you try influencer, you try like professional video gamer, you try adult online entertainer, whatever. It doesn't matter. You try them all. It doesn't matter. But again, it's not for everybody. A lot of people, a lot of women want to be with someone who they like has a job, have a job that they can like tell their parents about, that is stable, that comes with health insurance, that has all these things. There's like so many factors. And then they also have all of these biases and everything of, well, my brother lives in the basement of my parents' house and just plays video games all day, so that's what I think you do. Or I know a guy who's just a load and doesn't do anything and just, right? Like
Yeah.
there's all sorts of ways that people think about these things and have preconceived notions and stuff. And so you just don't bother with it. You just say, okay, whatever.
Well,
Move
so you
on.
mentioned that you're married and you have
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So that brings us to fatherhood, which is
Yeah.
you're a dad and your job is to play video games. Not just video
Yeah.
games, but like a 25-year-old video game at this point every
Yeah.
day. So, could you just give me an idea of how being a dad affects your daily routine?
I mean, it definitely puts us a hard stop a lot of times. There's a hard stop, and then there's also the like flexible stops because kids they just kind of come first, and they're 24/7. That's kind of really the tough part with kids. Is I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old or 1.5, and they're just like all the time. They're always trying to kill themselves, and they're trying to jump off of everything head first, and you're like, oh my god, just stop. Every time I turn around, my daughter's like grabbing, she reaching for the knife on the table or trying to put the screwdriver in the socket, and you're like, how are you always drawn to death? So you always have that, but in terms of my job, especially because I work from home, like they're out there and they're just running around. And sometimes someone busts a lip and they're bleeding and whatever. And like, okay, let me like go check on them. Right. Or sometimes the kids are just screaming and having a terrible day. And my wife's like, hey, can you end early? I just need some support. I need help. They've just screamed at me for the past like 6 hours.
She sends up a flare and says
Yeah, she
SOS.
sends a
Yeah.
flare up, Um, and then just for work, like I got to end work at 5 because we got to get these kids fed. They get hangry. We got to get them showered. We got to get them in their pajamas and ready for bed and in bed. And so, like, there's a whole routine. So we got to do that. So it's definitely a lot more like I have more of a schedule and I have to kind of fit my stream in between the scheduling a lot more, which isn't always easy because there's a lot of times where you're streaming and you're like, oh man, this would be a great stream to just play until 8 o'clock tonight. But I can't do that because I got these kids I got to go. So I would definitely say it's like made it more difficult and made my job a bit different from what I would like for it to be, but it's one that you just got to kind of accept, right? When you become a dad, become a mom, become a parent, whatever, like you're signing up for this, and this is just what comes with it. Flexibility and adjusting and schedule for them, and everything.
Yeah. a couple of friends of mine. I had my first year and a half ago, and we have another one coming in January. And a
Oh,
few friends of mine.
congrats.
Thank you. It's exciting. The number
Yeah.
we're less nervous about number two, but at the
Oh,
same time,
definitely.
it's
Yeah.
it's sort of like you know now what to expect. So there's a
Yeah.
little bit of dread, but we're still very excited.
Yeah.
But with some of my friends who don't have kids, they sometimes are like, well, like what's it like? And all I can really think is just go, things change
Yeah.
fast. Like everything's changing, and it happens so quick. So
Yeah.
let's pivot and let's go back to talking about the game again, because
Sure. Sure.
shit,
We
man,
could talk dad forever. Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
can talk
Yeah.
that forever. Let's talk about the game. So
Yeah.
to just jump right in, you're not on camera, but for some reason you decide, you know what I think I'd like to do? I'd like to play Diablo 2 by myself.
Yeah.
What character are you gonna make, and what skill tree are you taking, and what items are you gonna look for to get in your little window of free time?
I mean, it's kind of crazy because I really play all over the place. One of the things that I love that keeps me able, people always ask me, how do you play this game every day for, years and years and years? And one of the things is I play every character, every build, every different way. So I'm, playing through as a Boazon, and then the next day I'm playing a barbarian and endgame magic finding, and then I'm playing through the game as some like silly character. And so it's hard to say. Like it kind of would just depend how I feel. The general default character I go to is probably my Blizzard Sorceress. I can just like relax, magic find, play Blizzard. It's not like too intensive on the keys. Whereas I feel like if I'm playing, my barbarian, my item find barb, berserk barb, I'm like a little more, you have to be more engaged with that because there's a lot more like keys you gotta be pressing in sync. So if I'm really chilling, I'm playing that. But that's just probably my average default. But I'll play a lot of characters in a lot of ways. I love playing just the Fire Warlock and the cows is really fun. I love the Poison Nova Necro, just like run around the Flare Jungle and stuff. Yeah, and there's a
So
lot.
what? So is there a? Have you found that there's a best character or a best skill tree build for content? Does your stream, does your YouTube videos, do they appreciate certain builds over others?
Yes and no. From a guide standpoint, so I write all the guides on Icy Veins, all the Diablo 2 guides. And the Diablo 2 Summon Necro is the most viewed guide consistently by twice the views of any other guide minimum. So you have like Hammerden, Javazon, Blizzard Sorceress, right? Like kind of the ones you'd expect, but Summon Necro is always twice the views of any other guide at least.
Why do you think
So
that is?
I think people just default to it. It's a really cool, it's a really cool character. It's just like a little bit less powerful than you'd kind of want it to ultimately be in a way. But like in terms of a summoner, it is a really great summoner feeling. You just get all these skeletons up and you get the revives up. And even though the Skelly mages suck, you bring up some Skelly mages because it's just cool to have an army of like 20 plus 30, units just all over the screen, swarming everything. And then you're just cursing all over the screen, corpse exploding. Like it's a really great, unique feeling. And I think a lot of people are drawn to that. And then I also think for newer players, that's like a comfort of having like, I have my summons in front of me, so they're getting hit and I'm not getting hit. So I think it has a safety aspect as well.
Summon Necro was my second character. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's just
It's kind of nice. This is very lazy to say. It's kind of nice to let the game play for you a little bit. Watch
a
all
little bit.
your dudes
Yeah.
get duded. Yeah,
You just build your dudes up and then they do it.
that's
It's
right.
great.
What is your absolute least favorite mob unique to run into? And before you answer, why is it extra fast, extra strong Fanaticism Aura?
I mean, yeah, that's a terrible combination of. It's that plus you just got cursed by
Yeah.
another boss, and there's also a Might Aura standing next to it just to buff it even more. It's that combination plus on like Death Lords is pretty brutal because then they get the frenzy. Um, or dolls are just like dolls are probably the like worst because a lot of times you die on the dolls, and I've like lost multiple hardcore characters because my mercenary killed the doll. I'm teleporting through. I get cursed by some aura or something whatever as I'm teleporting, and then I teleport over a wall. My mercenary stabs the doll. It explodes, and I die. And I'm like, cool, great, that's fun. Like, you lose from being offensive. Um, I do ultimately love like pretty much all the monsters in the game, and I like the dolls a lot in the way that they're the only unit that explodes and deals damage that way, instead of like a lot of other ARPGs where it's just like tons of units can explode and have after effects and all this stuff, and it's like, man, it's really annoying when more than even one thing, you have to constantly be like watching, like you kill stuff and you got to wait to go pick up the loot because it's going to blow up maybe. Like, eh.
For those of you listening who maybe aren't quite sure what he's talking about, the dolls are a group of enemies that are they're essentially like they're modeled after like pygmies from the
Yeah.
Amazon or something like that. So they're very
Yeah.
small. They run super fast.
Yep.
These ones that he's talking about are skeletons, so they're undead. And when they die, when you kill them, their little skeletons explode and they do damage at high levels, or for a hardcore
It's a
character,
lot
it's
of damage.
extremely dangerous. And it's not even just that they run super fast, so they just come out of nowhere. They hiss at you when they do it. They make this
Yeah.
hissing sound.
They're so scary.
It's so scary. It's so unnerving. Which that's a great segue into the next question, which is the music.
Yeah.
I started playing for fun in prep for this interview. I stopped streaming World of Warships for a little while, and I installed Resurrected. And
We
one
got
of
to
the
talk about that in a
comments,
second.
yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
continue.
one of the one of the comments that I kept getting was from people going, "Wow, I forgot how good this music was. The
Yeah.
ambient music is gorgeous. It's beautiful."
Yeah.
Like, maybe I don't have a question for that. So
That's it.
that's it.
It's it. The music is gorgeous. It's one of the best soundtracks. Just like, and again, so much ambient music fit into every zone. Every act has such a great feel. You've
Yeah.
got the classic bangers like Tristram and stuff, but then you've just got like when you go down into the harem and the palace, like awesome music in there. Or like through Act 5, you've got some good music on the way. Like there's just so many places where the music is just spot on, and it immerses you in the game so well. It's
If my high
so amazing.
school, if my high school time period had a video game soundtrack, it would be the ambient music to Diablo 2. It would be the entire score to Total Annihilation, and it would
Yes.
be all of the castle musics from Heroes of Might and Magic 2 and 3, the orchestrals with all
Yeah.
the ridiculous opera singing, which was just so wonderful. So, when it comes to character builds, are there any that you wish you really like and you want to play, but they're just not good enough to really repeatedly play?
Boazon is the one that I play the least, but I would want to play more. I always am slightly disappointed by the Boazon, but I just wish I wasn't. But it's hard because there's kind of two issues. Number one, she takes so much gear to build to actually be able to kill things. You're not just looking at, it's like, yeah, you got to get your faith and probably a fortitude, and you have to get whatever, but you're also a lot of times looking at getting like 40-15s in your helmets. And, it's like you're really having to put on expensive gear. But then you also need all the charms, all the max damage attack rating charms so that your character actually gets that buildup of that. You maybe want to have a pride on your mercenary. You want, right? There's just like so many expensive things to get her going. And then when she finally gets going, when she's like cool and you love it and you get to run around and shoot your like multi-shot in the cows, or you're, running through terror zones, multi-shotting and guided arrow and strafing and stuff. And it's like fun, but she's a little bit slower because you're not teleporting everywhere because her frames really suck. And you also are using fortitude. And She doesn't have any magic find because all of your gear has to be focused on damage. Otherwise, your character like just can't kill the things. So all of your charms are max damage charms, not magic find charms. All of your gear is attack speed and ED and stuff instead of magic find and plus skills. So that really ends up being, I think, the biggest disappointment is it's like you eventually get to the point where you can kill a lot of stuff at an okay speed, but then you're running around with like 74 magic find on and you're like, well, that's just not enough. Like I'll just go get on my like 600 magic find blizzard sorceress and she'll just breeze through in the same amount of time, but I'll actually find way more stuff. So I'd say that's my biggest like sadness for a character because I love the Boazon. I'd love to play her more, but
That is a shame. Like I told you, my very first character was a Boazon, and
yeah,
that was in vanilla Diablo 2 before Lord of Destruction.
nice.
And the most broken build that I recall from that time period was because there was only nightmare modes. There was no hell mode. I don't believe. And the most broken thing, or maybe there was, but
There's hell, I think.
I think there wasn't a third level of gear. Maybe that's what I'm thinking
There
of.
was no elite items.
Right. There was
Yes.
only the
You
beginning
only
and
had
mini was.
you had normal and exceptional items, but you did
Right.
not have elites. So there
So
wasn't wind force. There wasn't any of that.
the item that made a Boazon work was the ballista, the unique ballista
Yep.
Bariza.
Bariza, yeah.
And that was one of the best items out there
Oh yeah.
because multi-shot would just clear rooms, and so you'd
Yeah.
always have. You felt like you didn't get to play if there was a Boazon using Bariza
Yeah.
on your team. It's
Yeah.
sad to see how far it has fallen.
I
That was
know.
before rune words and everything. So
And you also had the guided arrow that would pierce back and forth.
yeah,
So it would just
yeah,
yeah.
you
That
just
was a
stack the
lot.
piercing attack, and it just goes
Yeah.
back and forth and back and
Yeah,
forth.
that was I missed that.
So speaking of items, what would you say? And this is a very, very broad question, but if you had to pick maybe one, two, three items, we'll give the audience a treat. We'll say three. What would you say are the most overall useful item in the game? And I don't mean like potions. I mean, gear.
Are we counting like rune words and stuff as well, or
Let's not for this sake. Let's not
you stick to uniques and
stick
stuff?
to uniques and sets and whatnot.
Okay,
Yeah.
Shaco is the first one. It's just kind of universal. Every character can always use the skills, the life, the mana, the damage reduction, all of that. Just kind of too good. Arachnid Mesh number 2, the 20 FCR belt with +1 all skills. Though we now have Jeed's Wager that just got added in, so at least there's a competing FCR belt slightly. But that was just like, so useful there. And the third one, like not an armor because you have all that. I'll probably say Andariel's Visage just for mercenaries, kind of the universal mercenary helm, with just all the life leech on it and stuff. Is just so good, and it's got a lot of other nice stats. So those are probably my three. Maybe Mara's would be like the fourth one.
Okay.
If I had to
And
guess
now
the fourth.
rune words, and this doesn't have to be the most powerful ones, of
Yeah,
course. This could just be
yeah.
the ones that get the most utility.
Spirit, it's so far and away better than any other shield in the game that it's just any caster has to use Spirit. There's no other alternative whatsoever. Unless you're like really going for some like damage reduction storm shield build or something, but it's Spirit. Enigma, obviously, you're giving teleport to every character in the game. And then I'll say the best rune word in the entire game is Call to Arms. Being able to give, and this is one a lot of people don't think of. They always think of like Infinity or Insight or whatever, which are also still on this list, obviously. But Call to Arms, I think, is the number one best item in the game. It's used by literally every single character in the game, not even except the Barbarian. Barbarians also use it. They just use one CTA in one hand, and then they use a plus War Cries in the other hand. So you can't have better. Like CTA is the best rune word. It's literally used by every character.
Wow. Yeah, that it hadn't occurred to me. I remember seeing folks online, back in the day, always suddenly you'd see a paladin throw down some war cries and you go, oh,
Yeah.
right, he's got the one, he's got the thing.
Yeah.
Your most hated enemy type.
Is this not the dolls?
It could be the dolls if you want, but if you want to just throw out another one to spread the love around, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, I'll
too.
spread it around. assailants. They're like the sand raiders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty nasty because they'll have like a multi attack, and they're cold immune a lot of time. Like in some of the areas, they get cold immune, and so you can't like slow them. And they're fast, and they just like charge up to you, and it's like you know. I've had multiple deaths to those for sure, and it's just like ugh, they're so annoying because you just don't expect them to hit as many times as hard, and then if you get cursed or they crit you or whatever, like they're pretty nasty. So
I'm gonna throw my own out there, and it's any unit that like changes plane, meaning if it like
like the birds that fly.
the birds that fly or
Yes,
the little
yeah.
demons that teleport or
The
I
maggots
think
that burrow.
the maggots that burrow or I think
Yeah,
my absolute least favorite one are the it's in Act 2, it's the leapers.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know why it is, but for some reason trying to hit those is just it's my least
Oh, it's
favorite
a
thing to do in
nightmare.
the entire game.
Yeah,
And it's not
fight.
even because they're
Yeah,
difficult, it's just because it feels like such a waste of time.
yeah. Honestly, they are a lot of times a waste of time. There's many speed runs where we kill every boss group we come across, except like leapers, because unless you can get them pinned against a wall or like in a nook in open space, it's not worth the time. Like, don't bother trying to sit there and fight them. You hit them, they all explode off in giant tons of different ways, and they come running back, and then they're jumping over you. Yeah, the Leaper is a great hated unit for sure. Nice pick.
And you segued it. You mentioned speedrun. So this,
Yeah,
by the way, this is one of the ways that I found you years ago. I've watched you on and off here and there. No offense, of course.
sure.
I've kind of watched your content and then drifted away and then come back a year or two later, watched it again because it's always fun nostalgia for me to watch you having fun playing this game that I loved.
Yeah,
And so, but speedruns, this was always a thing to me that I went, okay, well, Mr. Llama does speedruns and he's really, really good at it. And it was always so wonderful that sometimes you would just make a day out of it.
yeah,
You're speedrunning to hell from normal to hell mode. And you in your YouTubes, you'd often have those. An entire speed run would be one video, which was
yeah.
wild. So let's talk about speed runnings, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What would you say is the hard? Well, actually, first let me back up. What would you say? How much of your content is speed running? Like, what percentage of your content, if you can put into a number?
I used to speedrun a lot more. I don't speedrun nearly as much nowadays. I'm kind of it's a little harder because the game is less static now. Like before Resurrected and stuff, the game hadn't changed in forever. And so it was like, yeah, you just like knew it was always the same. Now it's like, all right, we had like the Warlock, we had patch 3.0 come and it was like, oh, you've got this. And then patch 3.2 came and now the Nurlock like Flame Wave deals 15% less damage and Ring of Fire is like minus a couple damage as well. And like there's some changes here like, oh, okay, well now I guess all the Warlock records kind of get wiped out and restarted with the new patch or whatever. And now like they just announced patch 3.3 today and there's some more changes like Mantled Heal Ring now has 10% faster run walk on it and stuff. So like there's, okay, like maybe these are now going to affect speedruns ever so slightly. So there's little things that are always kind of changing now. So for me, I'm like, I like it when it's more static in terms of speedrunning, but it is still fun to just do and like race and all that. So I'd say right now it's like 5 to 10%. Go back many years, it was like 80% of my content.
Mm.
But I'm doing a lot more like guides, playthroughs. I'm really enjoying that right now. I'm doing a hardcore guided playthrough series. So I play through the entire game as a throw barbarian or as a, Javazon or an elemental druid or whatever, all the different classes, all the different characters, all the different builds. And I did this all on softcore. And a lot of the comments were like, yeah, but like softcore doesn't count. Can you do it on hardcore, noob, right? All that stuff. So it's a little bit of trying to shut up the haters. So I'm making all of them now on hardcore as well and being like, yeah, here you go. Here's the hardcore version as well.
So
But it's also fun.
this is a great opportunity to ask. My original question was going to be, what's the hardest character to go solo, normal to hell?
Sure.
We could still do that, but now I want to ask about hardcore. For those of you who maybe aren't aware, hardcore is basically if you die, you're
It's
dead.
over.
The
That's it.
game is over. You have to start a new character, which is it's the ultimate test of a man, obviously.
Yeah.
But what would you say is what's the most nerve wracking place in a hardcore normal to hell run?
I mean, it changes based on the character. So, like for the Javazon, it's Act 3 of Hell because, like, everything is lightning immune and all you do is lightning damage. And you just have all these things just zipping at you, all these raptors and everything. And they're all just lightning immune. And you're just like trying to like teleport around. And there's 100 flares in the, flare jungle all around you at once. And they're all lightning immune again. And you're just like, everything is like so nerve wracking. So that one stands out for like that character, but for like a fire character, they don't care. They just blow through, right? Act 3 doesn't have any fire immunes. They just like murder through a lot of that stuff. So the areas that generally trip up most characters are going to be Travancore can be pretty hard on a lot of them. You get a lot of damage from it. You get cursed often when you're there. You just have the Hydras pelting you down. You've got all these other, just like demons around you that are just like casting stuff. So definitely can die there. Chaos Sanctuary, of course, is just brutal. And there's just so many mobs in there and so many immunities in there that most characters, again, are going to have to like avoid fighting, engaging with half of them. You're always cursed or lower, you have lower res or amp damage or decrepify on your head. So I really feel like it's like those. And then the sneaky one I always talk about is the Bloody Foothills. It's so easy to lose a character in the Bloody Foothills, especially in Hell, because you have quill rats, you have slingers, you have skeleton archers, you have demon imps, just all of these ranged units. And it's a pretty narrow path. And so trying to like run around with this narrow path of just all these ranged units chucking stuff at you, some of it really hard to see like quill rats, it's very easy to just get popped out there.
Get popped in the bloody foothills.
Yeah. So
are there any areas in the game that you still like kind of legitimately enjoy going to and clearing?
oh, Flare Jungle for sure.
You enjoy Flare
Oh,
Jungle?
I love it.
Wow.
You just have to have a character that can do it. That's it. As long as you have a character that can clear. Like you don't take a Javazon to the Hell Flare Jungle, but I mean the Nightmare Flare Jungle, sure, whatever. Or, like you take the Warlock through there or whatever. It's just so satisfying. It's all these little soul killers and flares, and they're just like swarming in and just popping left and right. It's a great. Oh, I love clearing there.
May I share mine?
Yeah.
So mine is always the frozen tundra, still to this day, and it's
Interesting.
specifically. This is so lowbrow. It's specifically because when the map gets set up at a certain angle, and I forget exactly what layout it has to be, you can see if you go to the top edge, you can sort of see down.
Yeah.
You can see down to what's supposed to be like the map that you
Base.
just came from.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's Ariat Plateau or if it's supposed to be Haragath itself. Like I can't remember what you're supposed to be seeing, but there's just this notion of perspective that changes.
Yeah.
And I love that. It always tickles my imagination a little bit. Just frozen tundra. You're up on this tall plain, looking down at where you just were, like you just went up a mountain. And that for me, for some reason, it's the only like outside of a few of the dungeons, it's the only area that actually makes you feel as though you've traveled somewhere and you're different. Like, yeah, you can see where you just were, and here you are now. It's so dumb.
I always feel that with the area at Summit. Because when you're up there fighting the ancients, you can also go to the edge and look down and see. And I get that when I'm up there. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's a similar thing, right? It's fun. Warlock. They just came out of the blue with a whole new character after 20 years. What was your take on it first? What's your take on it now?
So I got to work with the devs in some of the design of the Warlock and a lot of the testing of the Warlock. Wow. Which was really cool. It was great. And it was a lot as well. Like, man, from where like we started when we were testing to where it came, there were so many iterations, along the way, and stuff would change and new bugs would happen and, like all sorts of stuff. It was a mess, but it was really cool. And so my thoughts on the Warlock really come to this. I really love the character. The biggest problem, one, it still needs a little tuning. I think he still does a little too much damage in some areas. Like I think his magic damage is a little high, his fire damage is a little high. I think they've actually done a pretty good job on the other trees, though. I think the like Eldritch tree is pretty good now with Eldritch Strike and whatever stuff. But they could do a little bit there. But my biggest thought around it is none of the other classes had pro Diablo 2 players testing them. And so all the other classes feel a lot weaker in comparison because they just have so many useless skills. Whereas when we encountered a useless skill, we went to them and we were like, hey, this sucks. It needs to like be improved, right? Like there were many skills when we first tested them that were just garbage. I mean, the demon tree for the Warlock was just not very like fun or very good in the initial test of it. And like, obviously it was the initial test and now it's a great tree and it's really fun. But at the beginning, it just like wasn't very good. And so it was like, wow, this is not great. But that's because they had myself and a couple other guys who were like testing and were able to give that feedback. So then when the character finally came out, all of his skills are usable and they're all like solid. And, some of them are S tier, some of them are A tier, some of them are B tier, but they're all like usable skills that you can have fun with and make builds around. But then you look at, like Necromancer and he's got like Poison Dagger and Poison Explosion and Skeleton Mages and 4 different golems that he can only use one of. And most, they're still like, okay. And he's got an entire skill tree of just curses and you only use 3 of them, ever. Like there's just so many skills that don't get used that are just worthless. Or the Sorceress has 3 cold armors. Why are 3 of her skills a different cold armor each? It's like, so like the Warlock just is better because he doesn't have all this wasted stuff and just like a half a tree of completely worthless things.
Yeah, they had to retcon so many of the original class's abilities by adding the synergies just to go, okay, your points were not wasted by doing this. There is some relevance in speccing into this.
Yeah.
I suppose if you're starting, but that's because they were already in place and you can't functionally change them. So it does make sense that if you're starting from the ground up with all those lessons, you're just not going to have that sort of,
right.
I want to say like lost territory. That's just, at best, it's a synergy.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, now it's a really fun character. I think he's got a lot of great stuff. Again, I think there's a couple things that could still be tweaked on him, but I think he's done well. And I think the nicest thing is now with Eldritch Strike fixed, he doesn't like break the game in a way where he just is like so overpoweringly dominant beyond any other class. Like a Novasaurus is still faster than he is, and like leveling and clearing stuff. Hammerdin's still really great and probably right next to him. Like he's just like, he has some builds that fit into the S tier, but he's not like S tier like the Mosaic Assassin or anything.
Well, now I got to go try Mosaic Assassin.
Oh my God, it's insane.
So where are the best, this is such a dumb question. I know where the best places to find runes, for example, are. Like I know that Countess is great when you're looking for those mid tier or like low high tier runes for your early rune words and whatnot. But
yeah,
if you're like I never in all the time I played I found a handful of like high tier runes.
Yeah,
high tier.
Yeah.
But people are making all sorts of very very high end rune word gear. So if you're trying to make rune words, the high ones,
yeah,
where are you going to get those runes?
You go to the lower Kurost if you want up to a Burr rune. Well, first, like you say, you go to the Countess if you want up to an Ist rune. You go to the lower Kurost if you want up to a Burr rune. If you want beyond that, you go to the Chaos, you go to the Travancore, or you go to the Cows. Those are pretty much your best spots. You can also do some Flare Jungle. You can also just do Terror Zones. They've got okay drops if you have good enough killers. Taurash's Tombs are like okay for it as well. But really, I find the cows have been the best rune spot. I did a 1 to Zod speed run. Took like 60 hours, I think, something like that. So that
Wait,
was
you did
started.
a speed run from 0 to finding a Zod?
Yeah, started at level 1 and then speed run to getting a Zod. It wasn't finding; it was cubing up to it. Um,
Okay.
which
Well,
I
that
mean, it
makes
was
so much more sense.
still pretty similar. So I ended up cubing, like 4 burrs into 2 jaws into 1 cham, and then I had another cham that I found, and I cubed both chams and made a Zod.
Oh, that's so
Um,
painful to think of cubing all that stuff.
it was a lot, yeah. And I had also found many ohms and vexes, and I found a lot of high runes in all of that run. And I went around to all the like known spots. I did the terror zones, I did the chaos, I did the cows, I did whatever. Nothing beat the cows. The cows had like the best runes per hour that all the other places. I think I was getting like 28 runes an hour or something in the cows, and I was getting like at best 20 runes an hour in like the chaos and some other areas. And that's really what it's all about, is just runes per hour. It's just
Yikes.
there's nothing better than that. So
Was there a level of rune you would not pick up?
I mean, I don't think I picked anything up under a lem rune or something.
Okay. I
you
wasn't
know
sure. I was
yeah.
like, I think I remember seeing somewhere how many L runes it would take to cube into a Zod, and it was in the
It's
like
like
the
four.
hundreds of thousands or something like
Oh
that.
no, it's 14 trillion.
Oh my God, is
uh
it really?
yeah, 14 trillion L runes to cube up to Zod,
Oh, kill me.
because it's it's not even 2, because it's like 3 to the whatever, because you need 3 L runes to make Eld, 3 Elds to make tier, 3 whatever, all the way up to Lem. And then after that, when you get the poles, it's now 2 poles to make 2 ums to make Mal, right? And so all that. Plus
Woof.
all of the gems, which you need like millions of gems
Yeah.
as well, because you have to use all those. So yeah, I was picking nothing less than a lem, but even then it ended up being, it didn't matter anything below like Sir Rune. Like I think in the end I ended up just cubing up Sir and above to get to the Zod, and everything else I just had, but it wasn't enough to, be worth.
That's so fun. Did you come up with that idea, or was that suggested to you like by your community?
I don't remember. I think I came up with it, but maybe someone said it,
Sure, yeah.
you know.
What's been remarkable is I actually, now that you started describing that, I actually remember seeing some of your content around that, around cubing up
Nice.
to a Zod rune, and
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, what a good idea! Like, that's so much content that you can get with such a direct, distinguishable goal, and
Yeah.
it has such wonderful moments of joy of like, oh,
Yeah.
we didn't just find a lem, we found this, which this gets us so much faster towards
Yeah.
our destination, that
Yeah.
it's just such a great it's such a great idea for content, because as I'm sure you know, coming up with content can be very difficult.
Oh yeah. I'm
Yeah.
11 years into it, so
So that brings me to my most important question, obviously, which was, how many storms of Jordan have you found in your lifetime, would you say?
I, I can't tell you. Honestly, it's probably not as many as you would think. Stone of Jordan's kind of rare, and unless you're really target farming it, you're not going to find it a ton. Um, so, like, found actually, maybe like 50, 60,
Okay, I
something
feel
like
so much
that,
better then.
which is still like a lot. But again, it's like I've found, you know, just as many like burr runes as I have SOJs or something. It's just like SOJ doesn't get found nearly as often as you would think.
Yeah.
Or maybe, not think. But yeah, it's just
Two.
when
That's how many I've found in my whole life.
okay, well
Two.
there you go,
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I play as often as you do, though, so
I
it
think I
makes
play
a
a
little
little
bit more
more.
sense. A little
Yeah.
bit more. Okay, well, you know what? We're just past an hour, about an hour and 10. We talked about this earlier, and we thought maybe we'd talk forever. It's a
Yeah.
little bit late here, and I appreciate you taking the call kind of late to do that.
Sure.
So let's just do this. I wanna ask a few questions for the Patreon, but
Yeah.
for to wrap up here, we'll just have two last ones, which are, can you give us, and don't mention Tyrios, Could you give me a couple of it doesn't have to be the rarest finds, but some of your best finds maybe, and that could include something where multiple exceptionally good or rare items dropped together, I suppose. Could you give me a few that stand out that you'll probably go like, oh yeah, I'll always remember that one.
So I had Mang Song's lesson drop, which it was the last item I needed to complete my Grail. And so finding every item in the game. And that one took like a year and a half by itself. And I wasn't like
Wow.
grinding every day on it. I would like speed run in between, whatever. But like I'd spend multiple, years finding every item in the game. I'd already found the Tyrael's Might, which, you've seen and. But that was the last item I needed. And so when I finally found Ming Songs, that was like, oh, such a relief. I loved that one. So that one sticks out of my mind. The second Tyrael's Might I found also sticks out of my mind because I had my wife with me, and the first Tyrael's Might I had my ex identify, and she identified the Tyrael's Might, and I was like, and I had identified all sorts of like Templars. Like you have a 1 in 9 chance of identifying Tyrael's Might.
It's 1 in 9. I thought it was 1 in 3.
No, 1 in 9.
Oh, good lord.
And so I, at that point, had identified like 14, not at that exact point, but like by now, whatever, have identified like 14 unique sacred armors, and all of them were Templar's Mites, except the one that my ex identified, which was Tyrael's, and the one that my wife identified, which was also Tyrael's. I eventually have identified my own Tyrael's.
Okay.
Though I did like a year ago or something.
I was gonna say, please tell me that we've learned something from this.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. It's like always just have them. But that's what it was. I was like, man, I got to get my own. But I was really happy when my wife did it because it was also just hilarious because I was like, of course, like she's gonna also get it. It's just like I can never ID this. It always has to be
Yeah.
someone else.
Well,
So those ones are probably my favorites.
that's awesome. So what we'll do here is we'll say goodbye. We'll hang out for a second. We'll switch over to Patreon questions.
Sure.
Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Llama, very much for being the guest. This was wonderful. I've enjoyed it immensely. I hope you've had fun too.
That was
Um,
great.
and then maybe just for all those folks watching, listening, who they're definitely gonna either purchase Resurrected or they're gonna reinstall their Diablo 2 with their
Yeah.
CD key that they definitely still have in a
Yep.
little folder with the
Yep.
key written on a
A
piece of
little.
paper. Yep. Um, if if they're going to go from normal to hell,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for them? Not hardcore, just regular, like just some key pointers to help them get through without hating themselves.
One, you can always use one of my guided playthroughs. No shame. And I have it for every build, so that's why it's there. Um, if you want to do it blind without any of that, though, the biggest pointer I have is get your resistances up. Now, in normal, it's not too big of a deal. You want to have some fire res by Act 3 and 4. But when you get into Nightmare in Hell, if you're running around with resistances that are like below 10 or in the negative or anything like that, you're just going to have a really bad time. It's going to just be rough. Everything's going to be one-shotting you. You're going to feel like the game's unfair. It's going to be gross. Now, it'll still be hard when you get to hell and stuff. But if you have resistances, at least you're preventing like all the one-shots from just a random elemental shot off screen or something. The
Every
second
cold
thing,
enchant.
right? Every cold
pop.
enchant explosion kills you. It's just like so many things. You're like, the second thing would be you don't have to kill every single monster, especially when you're in hell and they're immune to your elemental type. If you deal cold damage and they're immune to cold, move past them. Like, just go on, or have your mercenary feed him potions, have him slowly chip away if you really feel the need to. But a lot of times people are like, how do I get past? There's this gargantuan beast pack in the cold plains that's cold immune and they're giant and I can't get past them. And I'm like, just don't fight them. Just literally go past them. Run to the stony field and then you're past them. Congrats. And so I think that's a tough thing for a lot of people because they're used to games nowadays where you can just kill everything. Everything just, there isn't immunities like that. So you just hit the button and everything dies. And then in Diablo 2, it doesn't die. And you're like, oh crap, not only does it not die, I do 0 damage to this. So you either have to find another way, like I say, a mercenary or have some dual spec, or you just ignore it. So
Very good.
that's my best advice.
Mr. Llama SC, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.